Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall Psychic, all the way from the Gold Coast here in Australia. Our hearts and our prayers go out to everybody in the US that's been affected by the hurricane that happened over the weekend. I know lots of people are still very displaced. Lots of people are homeless. Lots of people have lost, important family memories and mementos and things that were really important to them. And they're things that money can't replace, is, the family treasures and things like that, the photographs, the things that we lose in these sort of terrible natural disasters. Look, I know there's plenty of other weather events going on right around the world and lots of people are losing things, but that's the one that sort of springs to mind at the moment and has a special place in my heart because that's where we broadcast from every week. So, the world is changing. We constantly talk on this show about climate change and, we all have to be responsible. We all have to start doing something, even if it's something as simple as recycling and sort of, not taking the car, walk, take your bicycle, do something different. We all are responsible for what's happening around the world in a small sort of way. Not one person can change the climate, but collectively we can all do something together. So this week's Simply Tarot card of the week is the card called the Chariot. Now, the Chariot's a rather ambiguous card. People look at this and they say, well, what's there, two lions or two dogs, or what's happening? Is he going in a chariot race? No, not necessarily. It is the card of movement of residence, journey or victory over the situation. Now, sometimes we find ourselves in situations in life where we're sort of needing to balance the opposite polarities. We need to look at it from both angles. And this is where this card sort of really comes into its own. If you're in a situation where you're not getting any clarity, you're not getting any closure, things aren't going your way, maybe put yourself in the other person's shoes or look at it from the opposite side. So then when you're able to do that and you have all the facts and figures of the situation or the decision that you need to make, then maybe, just maybe, you will then have the victory over the situation. Not every time does this card come out means you're moving house. I mean, heaven forbid, if it was, I'd be moving every second day, and I wouldn't particularly like that, as most people wouldn't. But most of the time it's a victory over something. It's something that we've been working for very, very long and hard, and it brings our life into balance. Once we sort of get to the bottom of the issue or we start to look at it from the opposite side, then we can have the victory over the situation. For some people, there may be a journey on the cards, a journey that you've been hoping to take, and for some people it may be a movement of residence. So there's something there for everybody this week. So we're going to move straight into the astrology section this week. It's a really powerful sort of week astrologically. There's a lot of stuff going on around the world, and it's really sort of, in some ways, very uncomfortable with things that are happening around the world in world events as we speak at the moment. But let's get into it. Happy birthday to all the Librans. It's a really nice time of the year to be a Libra. It's your birthday month. It's time for you to shine. I have plenty of Librian friends, and look, let me waylay the myth that Librans can't balance the scales. That's absolute utter nonsense, because Librian people, and I've worked with a lot and I know a lot and I have a lot in my family, they constantly are searching for the truth. They sort of look like as if they may be out of balance while they weigh up all the options. They look at everything from every conceivable angle, and then once they're comfortable that they've explored everything, then they bring down their decision, or they make their final offer, or they make their choices. So they're not out of balance. They're weighing everything up. There's a very distinct difference. So don't ever cross a Libran, because I can assure you they have a memory like an elephant. They never forget, and they might seem to be forgiving on the outside, but let me assure you, they don't forget on the inside, and they will carry that with them for the rest of their lives. So please don't cross a Libran. You find a lot of high court judges and people in very high positions of mediation and things like that are Librans. And that's because they have this amazing ability to be able to see everything from every angle before they come to a conclusion, a decision, or a judgment. So happy birthday again, Librans. It's a wonderful time of the year. So at the moment, we've got the moon's south node, which is where we're aspiring to come from. Now, this, yes, does affect most air signs, which is Libra, Aquarius and Gemini, and the opposite sign of Aries. And it's saying to everybody in those particular four signs, it washes over the rest of us, but not quite as much. It's saying, look at where you've come from. Look at where you've come from, because you've got to learn the lessons of the past. You've got to see where you've come from. What are you aspiring to achieve? Is there anything that you left undone, anything that you didn't complete? Is there any lesson that you haven't completed? Is there any lesson that we maybe need to go back and revisit and take some experience from that moving forward. It's a really important time to make sure that you leave no stone unturned, that anything that's not completed, finished, or that you put on the back burner, now bring it back out, revisit it, look at it, see whether it's right for to be completed now, or is there just another layer or two that we've got to add to it? But make sure that you don't ignore it. If you don't listen to the lessons of the past and go back and regurgitate the past, let me assure you, you will make mistakes, and they will be mistakes that cannot be easily changed. They will be things that will be difficult to undo once you've set it in motion. So you've got this last little window of reprieve where you can start to sort of maybe look at something and say, hang on a minute, that was my decision last week, but hang on a minute, I'm not feeling comfortable with this. Maybe I need to revisit it. Maybe I need to rework it, relook at it. And maybe, just maybe, I might come to a different decision. So don't be frightened to turn around and say, hang on a minute, that was last week's choice or last week's decision. But this week, new information's come to light and I'm going to change course because it's the right thing to do. Now, the South Node is conjunct the Sun in Libra, which means they're holding hands, they're having a good time. So yes, it is really definitely affecting Librans, but it's a positive time too. It can be the letting go of the past as well. The Sun is also conjunct or holding hands Mercury, also in Libra. So Mercury is the planet of communication. So this week, particularly for Librans and the other signs that I spoke about before, the other three signs, really be very clear on your communication. Make sure you've got your listening ears on. Make sure that you're absorbing and taking on board all the knowledge. You don't necessarily have to give an answer straight away or a decision straight away. You can ask for a little bit of time to think about it, a little bit of time to absorb it, and then come back with your answer. There might be some important communications that are going down with bosses or people in authority positions, or even just loved ones and family members, but make sure that you've got your listening ears on, and make sure they have theirs on too, that they're listening to your point of view, which is equally as important as theirs. There will be some tough negotiations to go on for some people, and for other people, the negotiations will go fairly easily because they've done the preparation, they've done the listening, they've done the research, they've done their homework. So therefore, negotiations can move smoothly. It doesn't necessarily have to be a negative. It's just a warning there that make sure you've got everything that you need going into a meeting or a conversation, and make sure that you're listening. So we're going to move to another really important area of astrology this week, and this is the planet Uranus. Now, Uranus is like the Tower card in astrology. It's the sudden situation. It's the bolt of lightning. It comes out of nowhere. Yes, sometimes it can be not so many pleasant things that are happening in your life, or things that you feel is out of control. For some people, it's sort of the suddenness or a sudden change, or an end of a job or a family matter or a sickness or an illness or something like that. It's something that takes us by surprise. Now, Uranus at the moment is going what's known as retrograde or backwards until the end of January 2025. I cannot state enough, it will not go direct until the end of January 2025. So if you are a Taurus, a Virgo, a Capricorn, or a Scorpio, please take note. This is not an easy cycle, because what it's asking you to do is revamp your life. It's asking you to look at things. It's asking you to sort of turn around and say, what is not working in my life? Is there something that suddenly crept up on me recently, or rebooted itself, or reared its ugly head again, something that I thought I had under control? And why is it happening now? Now, it's saying to you that the things of the past, or the way that you dealt with things, whether it's health, whether it's family, whether it's finances, whatever it is that's important to you, cannot continue on the same way. We need to get on a new path. It's like the old path is worn out, it's blocked off, it's finished. There's nothing more to gain there. We need to have a fresh approach. Now, for a lot of people, they're going to feel very, very uncomfortable. They're going to feel very stressed. They're going to feel even almost frightened that everything seems to be out of their control. If they try something that's not working, what do I do next? It's like, take a little quiet time, go back and reflect, look at how far you've come, look at what worked in the past, look at why it's not working now, and be brutally honest with yourself at why is it not working now? Is there something that I'm contributing, doing, or not looking at that's hindering my progress, that's not enabling me to get the breakthroughs? Because Uranus here wants to bring breakthroughs. It wants to be like that bolt of lightning. It hits the ground, clears everything out, gives you some new fresh energy or a new perspective, a new way of looking at things. A lot of people, being a Taurus, will be stubborn, pig-headed, and will not be prepared to listen. will not be prepared to listen to people that can give them advice. And that's why it's so important that you need to put your listening ears on. You need to stop being so stubborn and pig-headed and saying this is the only way it can be, and open yourself up to the potential or possibilities of a fresh set of eyes looking at the problem or the situation or your health matter or your finances or whatever it may be, or the family situation, in a brand new light. And don't just sort of sit there with your arms folded and say, I'm not listening, this is not for me. Open your heart, open your soul, and at least look at the potential that somebody else might have that brainwave, that Uranian flash of energy there that might be able to break through this and get some results that have not been able to be there before. So again, I cannot stress, leave your stubbornness at the front door and go in with an open heart. This is really, really important. Now, we also have Pluto, the planet of transformation, is retrograde at the moment and sitting in Capricorn for the final dance that he will be doing in the next 224 years. Now, this goes through to about the middle of November this year. I'm hoping against hope that with Pluto sitting in Capricorn and ruling things like big business, governments, official situations, all those sort of things, that maybe, just maybe, we can see a ceasefire or some sort of breakthrough in the Middle East very, very quickly by governments around the world working together to try and find, even if it's a temporary solution, so that we can get to the negotiation table and try and negotiate a deal here before too many people lose their lives and, and lose loved ones and, homes and all those sort of things. It takes a long time to rebuild after war. Having said that, we could also hope for the same miracle to happen in Ukraine and Russia to finally gain some perspective on this, that they can't just be greedy and can't just take a country because they want to. That's not their right. They have enough land and resources in their own country to, leave their neighbours alone. It's a time where governments will be put under pressure. There'll be lots of different elections that'll be going on around the world, and people will say, oh, it's a swing, or it's a close, or it's this, or it's that, or the other. That's what Pluto's going to do. He's going to sort of keep exposing both sides of the coin. He's not going to show a clear winner when it comes to an election. It's going to be one day this one's ahead and tomorrow the other one's ahead, and then some radical party is ahead, and everybody sort of thinks, oh, gee, is it worth voting? Here in Australia, we don't get a choice. You have to vote. You're not allowed not to. If you don't, you get a fine. So, but I know other parts of the world, voting is optional. This is one of those times I would stress, if it's optional for you, make sure that your voice is heard. Make sure that you do vote. And then you can turn around and say, well, I did contribute to the final outcome of whoever was elected, because I did stand up and put my name on a ballot and said, this is who I voted for. On a lighter note, we've got Jupiter still sitting in Gemini, be there for quite some time yet. So Jupiter is really affecting everybody in a sense. It's particularly affecting the air signs, which is Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, and the opposite sign of Sag. But Jupiter's lightening everything up. For the other 8 signs, it's sort of washing over and saying, okay, let's try and find some positivity out of all this negativity that poor Amanda's been sharing with us today, that we can all have something that we can sort of exhale and say, oh, good, we've got something exciting to look forward to, or something new and fresh and innovative. For many, many people, they're sort of starting to look at their finances, looking at the year coming to a close. What have I achieved? What have I didn't achieve? What can I take into 2025? Is there any way I can improve my finances? Do I need to move? Do I need to buy a new set of curtains? There's lots of things happening out there at the moment where people are sort of looking to expand their world in a positive sort of way. It's almost like, oh, well, really shouldn't be doing that, but gee, I'd like a new set of curtains, just to make them feel better, to make them feel like there's something positive in the world, that they've worked hard and this is their reward. They've got something that they can admire. Now, look, I'm all for that. I don't think there's any reason, even if you're terribly, terribly financially strapped, that you don't buy yourself a little trinket of some kind and say this is what you deserve because you've been working hard to sort of bring your finances under control. It seems to move the energy. It seems to sort of not only bring a smile to your face, but it moves the energy in a positive way, that then more starts to flow to you. Because when we start depriving ourselves and keep sending out to the universe, I can't afford this, I can't afford this, the universe says, oh, well, they don't want it. Can't afford it, don't want it. But if you turn around and say to the universe, well, I bought myself a little trinket and I said to myself, this is because you've done an amazing job, well deserved, enjoy it. The universe says, oh, well, maybe they do want a bit more. We'll give them a bit of a helping hand here. So be very careful what you send out to the universe, is my message. And, I've said many things over the years to my friends when they've been in, financially strapped situations. Go and buy yourself a new dining room suite or something like that. And they look at you stupid, I can't afford to pay the electricity bill and you tell me to buy a dining room suite. Well, yes, find a way to do both. But then you'll start to, every time you walk past it, you can pat the chair and say, isn't that lovely? Oh, I really did deserve that. And you, again, reaffirming with the universe, even though it might be on HP, that you really did deserve that new piece of furniture. So we have Mars still sitting in Cancer. Now, this is an interesting placement for Mars because Mars is affectionately known as the planet of war or the planet of action. Now, sitting in Cancer and sitting in a water sign, we tend to sort of think that Mars's energy just sort of disappears or melts away or whatever. Nothing can be further from the truth. Again, it's another one of those misunderstood signs in astrology. Everybody thinks of Cancer and they think of a crab walking sideways and somebody that sort of doesn't really make any great progress in their life. Well, let me assure you that's very, very wrong. Yes, they sometimes can seem to go sideways to actually go forward, but they have a very hard shell and they're pretty hard nut to crack sometimes because when they're very determined and want something, nothing and no one will stand in their way. They achieve everything that they want. So it's interesting with Mars here, being the planet of action and the planet that makes you get out of bed and do something. It's interesting with the combination here where Mars might seem to be a little bit watery or a little bit softer or a little bit gentler. Don't underestimate that because the force of water is probably one of the strongest forces in the world. We look at it with hurricanes and floods and things like that and the amount of things that can be destroyed by water. So look at Cancer being the same sort of way. It's movable sort of water. It's that flowing water that we see in rivers and creeks and things like that. That's what the Cancer water is. So when you look at this with Mars there, it sort of says we can move things along. If it's the planet of war, we can move things along by everybody getting behind it. The force of everybody saying this is unacceptable, we do not want this, we don't want this to happen anymore, can make it sort of actually happen. So I want to just quickly wrap up with the North Node is actually in Aries. So again, Aries people, get off your backside, do something constructive, look at where you've come from, make sure that you're looking at where you're going. I can't emphasize that enough. I have a lot of Aries friends that are in change at the moment where they're sort of changing course or changing direction in their life. Make sure that you don't waste this. So we're going to talk to our first person, is Regan on the Gold Coast here in Queensland. How are you, Regan? Beautiful part of the world, is it?
Good, thank you. Thank you, yeah, lovely, love it.
Yeah, so do I. So that's why I'm saying it's such a beautiful part of the world. How can I help you today, sweetie?
Well, I'm not too sure. Like just some general guidance and, yeah.
Do you have a question I can answer? That's usually the best way to, because we only have a limited time on the show. If you've got a question that you want answered, I'm happy to answer that for you.
Do you know what? The funny thing is I don't have any questions. I just wonder if Spirit may have anything they need to share with you.
Yep, we can do that for you. The first thing that they're showing me is there's ending, change and transformation coming up, Regan. So obviously you've been working since June is what they're showing me. I was sort of trying to get your life in sort of order, and it's like take one step forward, 3 steps backwards, you get a bit of a roll on, and then all of a sudden it's sort of like you slip back again. Don't look at that in the negative. Look at that as that when you've had to, you've had a little growth spurt and then you've been pulled back. It's just so you can reassess that to make sure that you've dotted all the I's, crossed all the T's, and then we can take that next leap forward. They're also sort of showing me that this year has been a real year of where you've become really definite, Regan. It's like it's either yes or no. It's sort of like I don't have to stop and think about things. And for the very first time in your life, I think you've actually put yourself forward. Would you agree with that?
Yep. I'm standing up for myself and saying no. And I never did.
You what, sweetie?
I've never done that in my life. Like I've cut people out of my life and just not tolerating it.
Good. That's putting yourself forward first. That's good. Yeah. That's exactly what you need to be doing. So you're right on cue for where you're supposed to be in your journey. We all have individual journeys. And I think probably one of the hardest things is when you're such a giver like you are, Regan, to turn around and say no and not give a reason or an excuse or whatever, but to just do it and to cut people out of your life because they no longer serve you or are using you or, it's not a two-way street. Yeah. It's a very difficult thing to do.
Brings trauma, that's for sure.
Yeah, it does. It does create trauma because it's not natural to your personality. But, something's driving you from within saying, this is what I must do. And I'm very proud of you to be able to say that you're doing that, even though it mightn't sit as comfortably with you as it will over time. But each time it happens, It will become a little bit easier. And it's you listening to your own psychic ability or your soul's message saying to you, this is what needs to happen, Regan, so that we can get you where you need to be going for the future. You can't take all these has-beens with you all the way. You know what I mean? Because they're pulling the life out of you. They're draining your energy. They're not contributing in any way to your future moving forward. So I want you to just sort of glide your way through to the end of 2024. Don't do something unless it's absolutely necessary, and get ready for 2025, because 2025 is going to be a year where things are just going to explode, but I mean in a positive way. You can be sitting there bored one minute, and the next minute you've got 10 things that you've got to achieve, and it's like, wow, where did that come from? So that's why I'm saying glide towards the end of the year. Have as much rest as you possibly can. Go to the beach, enjoy our beautiful weather when the sun shines again and we get a bit of warmth again, and just sort of get ready for next year, because you're right on cue. Anyway, Regan, that's where I've got to leave it. I've got another client I've got to talk to. Have a great day and enjoy our beautiful Gold Coast. We're going to talk with Louise now in Bradford in England. Are you there, Louise?
Yeah, I'm here.
You have a question I can answer for you, please, Louise?
I don't really have all at the top of my head.
Okay, all right. I just always ask, because most people phone into the show because they've got a question, something that's pressing. That's why I always ask, is there something I can help you with, before I look generally at what's going on. The first thing that I was picking up around Louise, was, have you not been well recently? Has your energy levels not been up there where they should be?
No, I'm not.
That's slowly changing. Yes, sweetie, what they're showing me on a soul level is that's slowly changing. Whatever there's been there, and I'm not a doctor and I'm not about to go into medical things, they were just showing me that your energy levels weren't where they should be. They're showing me that they're slowly starting to creep back in, that, you'll start, as each day goes by, there's a little bit more energy, a little bit more clarity. And I'm going to say a little bit clearer in your thinking too, Louise. It was sort of like the energy levels being low went hand in hand with your thinking not being as super sharp as it normally is. And it's sort of like that was a frustration, as well as not feeling well, was not being able to think as clearly or make decisions as easily as you did in the past. And that was making you frustrated as well. That is coming to an end. I know we're in October now. They're showing me more towards the end of October that's sort of like you've got a real spring in your step again, and that's good. Did you move house this year, or were you thinking about it?
I was thinking about it.
Yeah, that to me is not completely off the table yet, but I want to say let's not do it just yet. I think we need to get you really energized again before we sort of look at that. Would it be fair to say that, in the scheme of things, hopefully that may have happened by next March?
I haven't really looked at dates, I've just been looking into it.
Yeah, I just sort of feel by March next year, you've either moved or you've made the decision of when you're going to move.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were showing me March as sort of a turning point, and that's why I asked, would it be potentially you might have moved by then, because it seemed to be showing me sort of by the time we get to March next year, it's like the sunshine comes in the window. It's like everything's illuminated, it's happy, it's bright, it's sort of like I'm feeling good. I've got, plans for the future, and everything is starting to sort of come together. This has also been a tricky year for you on the emotions, has it not, Louise?
Yeah.
They're showing me that we're not quite there yet. We're about 95% of the way, and this last bit might seem like the hardest, but it's only because you're tired. And, the energy levels haven't been there, but I'm talking about now you're tired on a soul level. Like there's been so much to achieve and push through and work through, and it's like, well, okay, this last 5% might seem like it's the hardest, but we don't have to do it all in one go. We can do it in manageable little tiny baby steps, and that way then we will achieve what we need to achieve. They keep showing me a canary in a cage, and I don't know how to tie that in, Louise. Does that mean anything to you?
A what, sorry?
Helen, you lost one.
Say that again, sorry.
Okay. They just keep showing me this canary in a cage, and the canary's chirping away and really happy. So I'll leave that with you. But sometimes, spirit comes.
What's chirping away? Sorry, I can't
What's
hear you. Sorry, I didn't hear you. What was that?
I said they're showing me this canary in a cage, a yellow one, that keeps singing and
A
chirping.
canary in a cage.
Yeah, a
No, I don't
canary,
know
a
about
bird.
that. All right, no. What colour is it?
Yellow.
Oh, no, I don't think I know that one.
No, but sometimes when they show me symbolism like that, it's not necessarily do you have to have the bird sitting in the cage in real life. It's like a symbol of what's happening. Maybe you've been the one that's been feeling like, the canary sitting in a cage locked up, and now you're going to start chirping and be happy. And, yellow to me is a happy sign, a happy colour. So if you're going to be like the canary in the cage, you're going to be whistling and singing and happy and, ready to move on with life. So I think that's what it is, that your life is going to open up. Okay, sweetie?
yeah,
That's where we've got to leave it because we've come to the end of the show. It's been lovely to talk with Reagan and Louise in different parts of the world. This week I want to leave you with a song that a lot of people will know the song, but they may not know who wrote it and who originally sung it. And, as each week goes by, we lose more and more, I believe, talented people from this world. We lose singers, songwriters, people that have made such a difference in our life. And this week we lost Chris Christopherson, and most people would know his songs, but not necessarily know that he wrote particular songs or sang them. And this particular song, Johnny Cash did a lovely rendition of, but I particularly like Chris's version of this song. And I know it's helped many, many people around the world. I've had many people over the years that told me this song saved their lives. It made them sort of sit up and take notice, to give up the things in their lives that they were addicted to and sort of turn their lives around, and they couldn't thank Chris enough for this song. It's called Sunday Morning Coming Down, and it's a beautiful song with beautiful words. And look, our hearts and our souls go out to his family and his friends and the people that knew this man. He was an amazing songwriter, an amazing singer, and he really did do it tough at many different times throughout his world in his lifetime, but he never gave up. And I think there's a message in there for each and every one of us. Follow your dream. Follow what's in your heart, and don't ever, ever give up, because you do have the ability to change the world in some small way, but Chris changed it in a very big way. So until next week, Sunday Morning Coming Down, and enjoy the song. It's a very beautiful song. Bye for now.